Hey, yo, what's good, everyone? Yokoso, which means welcome, and welcome back if you're new. I've got some awesome panelists as usual tonight. I've got Clef from Game Tech Talk, and am I referring to you by your actual name, or you just have many different aliases, including hands and turns? I'm not really sure about that.
Call me whatever you want, just don't call me late for dinner.
Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Yes, we want to make sure that he gets his turn at the dinner table. So tonight we are talking about the brand new MSI Claw A8 benchmark leaks that were just recently shown off in, I believe, a Billy video. And there weren't just synthetic benchmarks. There were also benchmarks for things like Cyberpunk, if memory serves. Have you gentlemen gotten a chance to see these leaks?
I have seen the leaks. I haven't seen the video, although I'm very familiar with the creator, the Chinese creator that got his hand on the device, because a lot of the things that I cover in the controller business, he talks about as well. For example, the Y700, he had a video pretty early on with the G7 controller. So I'm very familiar. I saw the leaks. Haven't watched the video yet, but I definitely will.
That's great that you brought that up first, Clef, because I think one thought that people might have is like the legitimacy or validity of like these sources and leaks. So it sounds like what you're saying though is these are probably coming from a pretty trustworthy source.
Yeah.
Right?
I've watched videos from that creator. Like clearly it's someone that knows his stuff, knows how to benchmark multiple aspects of a device. So 100%.
Okay, so that's awesome. And so what about you, Zach? Did you get a chance to take a look at those leaks?
No, actually, that's a rare thing that I guess that I've slept on a little bit. So I'll definitely defer to Clef on that one. And
well, you are not the only one sleeping on the Claw.
Ooh,
you're gonna throw that ally in the trash? Okay. So given this, what is it that we're seeing in terms of the Z2E benchmarks from these early preliminary leaks, and does it kind of fall in line with what your expectations are, what our expectations are?
Well, so on one end, it's going to sound a little bit boring because a lot of people have been speculating, and it pretty much is what we expected. That said, there does seem to be a little bit of an impression that it's going to be a little more consistent. If we are to take Z1E versus what 7840U was, where there was always, I want to say like a 5 to 10% increment in FPS versus the Z1E, it seems to be similar with the Z2E versus its closest counterpart, which is the HX370. However, based off of what we have so far, it could seem like the gap is going to be a little bit smaller, like something more along the lines of 2 to 5%. I have a little bit of a take on that, but I'm speaking without full knowledge. But if the tests that we've been presented are reliable, which I would say they are, for the most part, it's looking like it's going to be a closer gap. It's going to be more in line with what we can expect, from the mainstream chips.
That's interesting because I think that a lot of people would just assume that, some slight performance loss from the loss of cores and threads down from the HX370 over to the Z2 Extreme, which we had talked about before in one of our Z2 Extreme videos, and I encourage everybody to go and check out. But I mean, hearing this now, do you think that kind of makes sense, Hanser? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean that pretty well, makes sense. It's just, it's a HX370 by another name pretty much. And it was the same thing with the Z1. And I know you just said something about like cores, less cores, but it's always seemed like we're probably giving a little too much power to the CPU anyway. So having less cores, that's just, we're just balancing that out a little bit. So I'm not expecting like some huge drop just because of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, there is the case where certain games, usually things that require a lot more geometry, like big open world games, a lot of calculations like that, they would benefit from the additional cores. But even that, of course, is not guaranteed. And someone in the comments is welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. But a lot of times, when we're going above the 8 cores, there isn't like a significant improvement in FPS, or at least it doesn't seem like it's worth it, especially for like the additional power draw or power usage, which we know is a very high priority for handhelds or anything portable, really, because do you want like 2-3% more performance, which might result in 3 to 4 FPS, or do you want an extra 20 minutes of battery if that's what it results in, right? So what about the price leaks that are suggested by that came along with this video cards article? Just as a refresher for anyone who hasn't gotten a chance to see it, they were suggesting that it comes around to $800. Mind you, this is after the conversion and a 15% Chinese government subsidy. So, I mean, if you would put it, it would probably come closer to 900 and some odd dollars. But I feel like Hanstern's expression here is kind of saying it all for us. Well, what's your initial thoughts about this price?
Yeah, I mean, when you said 800, I was like, man, that's low. But yeah. I mean, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, I'm always one to temper my expectations on anything. So hope for the best, expect the worst, something like that. So
yes, right,
yeah,
right.
8. I mean, 8 anywhere from 8 to 900 sounds about right. So
okay,
but
and
that's definitely on the low end, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear that.
And do you feel the same way about that, Clef?
Yes, I do. It's definitely low. I don't believe it. Straight up, like something doesn't add up when it comes to the amount. However, it gives me hope on something completely disconnected, which is, on a previous episode, which I would also encourage viewers to watch if they haven't, where we talked about the Xbox Ally X. We talked about the price, and some of my predictions was around that price for the higher SKU. And so if they're able to do that, MSI, to reach that price point, then it seems not as far-fetched for ASUS and Microsoft to hit that price point as well. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. When it comes
wait a minute, Clef. I distinctly recall you saying something wild like $699.
No, that was for the lower SKU, was it?
Oh, okay. I don't know. You're the one that said it. Did
I? If I did, man, yeah, maybe I was smoking copium that day, because I look, I don't remember seeing that low. But anyways, that's not here nor there. Go watch that video and correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
We're gonna have to flip it in post. Yeah, go ahead.
That being said, look, I just feel like if really they can hit that price point on something that is pretty on par to HX 370, and to the point that we talked about, the lower core is not gonna be that much of a bother when talking about games, except if you're trying to run like Ashes of Creation or something, some game that murders your CPU. It's not really going to be that big a deal. It's probably going to also lower the overhead in terms of total power usage. So with the Claw having that 80 watt hour, it's going to be pretty. If they can hit that price point, HX 370 is going to get a good run for its money. Contrary to Z1E, in my opinion, versus 7840U, I think the benefits of 7840U was still like, it would justify the price increase. If that is the case and we're getting mainstream line drivers, because that's another thing we need to consider. We may not get the mainstream line drivers with the Z2E. And if we don't, that's another hassle to deal with. So I guess, there's a lot to think about here. I don't really believe the price, but if it's true, let's partay.
Yeah. Yes. So like doing the quick math here, that does come to about $950 if we're considering what the Chinese government is supposedly subsidizing in this cost to their local residents. Even that, I would say, is probably a bit optimistic considering the current price of the Intel 258V MSI Claw A8 Plus. These names, guys, is $999 now. So we can, if you take any one of these comparable devices, like an Intel 200-ish series chip, whether that's a handheld or a laptop, and compare it to something like the HX 370, you'll see that typically the AMD processors come up as like a little bit more expensive, usually, right? Or at the very least, there's some kind of price parity. So $950, I think, is still kind of optimistic. I would say, like, we would be surprised if really there's like, it comes in at $1,000, right? So same price as the Claw AI8 Plus. If that is truly the case, then I will say, yeah, I mean, people can have their cake and eat it too. They can choose one of each, or drop $2,000 and buy them both, right?
Yep. The more you buy, the more you save.
Oh, there it is. You brought up some really great points, both of you. And I think, Clef, you in particular were hinting at something there when you were talking about the HX 370 and comparing it to the 7840U and the Z1 Extreme. And so, I mean, if we're looking at these, the Z2 Extreme kind of slotting in right between, or right next to the HX 370, but perhaps maybe even better for our handhelds because it is a little bit more efficient. It can save us a little bit more battery. The question now is something like the Xbox Ally X, which you just mentioned earlier, with the Z2 Extreme AI variant.
Right.
What can we expect from that? Is that like, what are we speculating here for this?
That is such a hard question to answer, but we can definitely speculate on what this could mean, right? Because the AI variant is indeed slightly different. Now, if we're to go from a literate point of view and just take AI, it's going to depend on how that model is going to be used. Are we talking like just pushing a little bit more in terms of frame, in terms of balancing for power? Like, what is going to be the purpose of what that chip has to be different versus the other one? Because to your point, you have the two SKUs for the Xbox Ally X. We have the smaller SKU that will have the Z2E, much like the Claw A8, and the higher SKU will have the Z2E AI. So there's definitely a difference. Now, to be fair, was there a difference in core and threads? I don't think there was. No,
there was no difference in that, and I don't even think they reported any difference in the clock speeds either.
So it's really something, and it would have to be something in the architecture of the chip.
I got it, guys.
All that I've read is the NPU. Like the Z1. We had the NPU, turned off or whatever you want to call it, disabled. And then for this AI Z2 Extreme, it's enabled. So it's really just going to come down to why, like, what are we going to get from that?
Well, so maybe it is, if we're looking at the Z2 Extreme as a cut down HX 370 with 4 cores, I believe it's four fewer cores and either 4 or 8 fewer threads, and also the NPU disabled. And then versus the Z2 Extreme AI variant, this one is the fewer cores and threads, but the NPU is not disabled, as Hanstrom said. So maybe that's the difference, right?
Well, and here's where I'm probably haven't expressed that correctly, but here's where I'm thinking we might see different outcomes. Is that could be used at the forefront of the pipeline to try to get 2, 3, 4, who knows, 5 more FPS, closing that gap with the HX 370, or it could be used for something like FSR3 and really go at the end of the pipeline and generate those fake frames that I personally love. I'll take fake frames any day. Like something with lossless scaling, something like FSR3. And who's to say maybe Microsoft is working on a, proprietary approach to go along with the Xbox Ally X. I know we're going with tinfoil hat territory here, but I think the AI proponent could be used for something like that, for something to leverage, especially knowing that the Xbox Ally X will have low operating system running, to run your games, at least from the Microsoft Store and Game Pass that we know, and Xbox, of course. So, yeah.
It's definitely interesting and definitely worth speculation. I think I did figure it out. I think the AI actually means ASUS inflation, which we're going to see in the final retail price. But no, in all seriousness, you're absolutely right, Clef. I think that there is a serious potential that maybe they're doing something in the background, or they're able to leverage that NPU also, as Hanstern said, like why they're doing it. So there is something out there called Windows Automatic Super Resolution, which to my knowledge, not very many people, if anybody, really talks about it. It's more of I think it's like guidelines for companies like NVIDIA and AMD to use, so that really they could implement, FSR or DLSS, or in the case of Intel, XESS, at a baseline or at the Windows driver, or maybe even kernel level. Again, I don't think there's much of it being talked about, so we're just going to have to see what wild speculations that people have. Until then, I will be shilling lossless scaling until the end of time.
I'm with you.
All right. So, and hopefully the rest of our viewers and audience are also with us. And, leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you'd like to see in our future episodes. And if you're tired of the Z2 Extreme, tell us, throw us a bone and let us know that, Intel still has your interests.
Bye.
All right. See you guys in the next one.